Yeah, thank you.
Okay, everyone, welcome to Humanities, the place where we learn how to rise to power, right? Let's have Emma begin with a prayer.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. We're grateful for the opportunity that we have to get an education, and we're grateful for this humanities class and Julie who teaches it. We ask you that we may be able to learn something new today and that everybody may be able to participate in some way. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thanks, Emma. And oh my goodness, what an experience to read Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. I think it might be the very first time I've really ever read it. I've read a lot of Shakespeare, but I don't remember reading Julius Caesar. And I am excited to talk about it and abhorred with it too. So it'll be really interesting to hear your thoughts. Well, maybe I'll maybe I'll just ask what your thoughts were as you read this week. And please turn on your cameras if you can. What did you think of this reading? Anybody? Oh, yes, Elijah.
Shakespeare is just an amazing author. I mean, there's not many like him. This specific work, I think, is one of his more subtle ones, even though it's very dramatic. But I think I want to read it again to really absorb a lot of the ideas in it. It's very different. I love it.
Oh, cool. Was there anything in particular that you thought was fascinating to you, or an idea that you thought was fascinating?
I think one of the coolest things that I saw reoccurring in this book was this idea of the public and private self, and the conflict that brought most of the characters, mainly Brutus and Caesar. I just thought that was really interesting.
Wow, that's a good thought. Private and public action. What did you say? Thought or private and public what?
Private and public selves.
Yeah, selves. Very good. Anybody else? What did you think of this reading? Some of you didn't read it. What is it? I know that Jasmine did not read it. She has contacted me. She was packing boxes and she's going to have some time this week to read it. So she asked for an extension, which thank you, Jasmine. By the way, anytime somebody wants to get an extension and you've got a really good reason and it's not like you just put it off, write to me and I don't mark you late. I don't take the 10% off. So anyway, I know Jasmine didn't read it, but she's going to take lots of great notes, right, Jasmine? Okay. Anybody else? What were your thoughts as you read this? What are your feelings? You can even chat it if you want. Oh yes, Enoch.
It was a very muddy situation because there's not a good side or bad side. Well, there is kind of a bad side, but there's not a good side. Like, yeah.
Ooh, I'd like to talk about that today. I'm glad you brought that up. Anybody else? Okay. All right. What I want to do is I do want to go right into deeply going into following this play. But I I want to go back a little ways. Here we've had the Republic has lasted about how long do you think? Who knows? When did the Republic start? Did anybody know? You want to maybe look it up online really quickly? When did the Republic begin and the Roman kingdom end? I assume some of you are looking that up. Yes, Elijah.
Gracie just put it in the chat, but yeah, 509 BC.
And so about what year is this? I didn't hear. Sound like somebody took their.
I'm sorry, you cut it out. What did you ask?
Oh, okay. And so, gosh, is my internet bad? Am I cutting out for everybody? No? Okay. What I asked was, and about what year is this happening? This Julius Caesar. Almost, Andrew. That's about the time the Republic let's see, is that right? For some reason I was thinking 44. Caesar died. What year does Caesar die?
42.
That's what I thought. And so Cicero dies about that same time too. And 27 is really when the empire begins, right? So it's about 13 years before. Okay. So we are at the end of the Republic. I want to talk about this idea that people, what was the Republic founded on? What do you think? What principles was the Republic founded upon? Democracy, the people self-govern, yep. There were also councils of House of Commons and the House of the aristocracy, right? The plebeians and the patricians. So there was some representation there. So yeah. And why did they want to govern themselves? What had been happening? All of this is going to be on the written final and the oral final, so take notes. Bad kings. Thank you, Elijah. You are like stellar, answering everything. Thank you so much. I shouldn't say everything. We've had some help from Gracie and Andrew and Carter as well. We had bad kings that took the rights from the people, and they knew that they were ready and prepared to govern themselves, to protect their rights and protect the rights of others. And of course, they wrote the 12 tables, right? So now what is happening? Why is there a shift in the people who want a king again? What is happening? We could generalize and make a big general statement, which is only partially true, because there's going to be so many other things that always help to round out the answer. But what is the general idea of why the people wanted to return to kings again, do you think? And what usually happens when? Go ahead, Elijah.
I think this is a giant oversimplification, but I think one thing, especially in this play that we saw, was that the plebeians, were kind of like sheep, and they like to follow kind of almost mindlessly, and they could be guided very easily by people like Antonius. And I think the main reason why they wanted Caesar as a king is because partially because they were prideful and partially because they were lazy. I think it's a lot easier that way, to just follow a simple popular ruler than uphold your representational democracy and republic. And he was very popular at the time, so it was easy to kind of get behind him.
Yeah. Okay, that's very good. And yes, all of these conclusions are going to be simplifying, but there's a lot to it. Are there any other things that you feel could be why, and this is for anybody else, why the people are ready for a king? Enoch.
Entitlement, when people like to get things for free, or they're rich and they have a lot of possessions, so they want to be kind of looked up to with it.
Yeah. Very good. I hope you're all writing these things down. These are so important. What else comes to mind of why the people might be prepared to have a king again? I like what Elijah said. They want to follow like sheep. They feel entitled. What are some other things? Have you noticed what Caesar was doing all along with the poor people? Did anybody notice that as you were reading from the previous readings about Caesar? Yes, Andrew.
He just kind of gave them money and held festivals just to kind of keep them happy, so they liked him.
Yes. So there was a lot of gifts, a lot of money, a lot of rewards, a lot of welfare going on, right? That really made the people want that. And only a very wealthy king who gets his money in many different areas of the world, whether through plunder, whether through whatever it is, and they're constantly giving to the poor get used to it, and they stop feeling, going back to this, they start feeling entitled, like Enoch was saying. And so the more the poor get for free, the more they want and want and want more and more and more. It's the same with my children. The more I gave them without them having to work for it, the more they wanted. And the more rules I would have to set up rather than having them govern themselves, right? So it's the same thing. It's just a principle that happens when people get what they haven't earned. It just gets them used to wanting a king. And of course, that's only part of the reason. But yes, so this man rose to power very, very quickly, and the people were okay with it and ready for it. They were ready for it. And I want to talk about how people, I want to go along with that a little bit more. And I want to talk a little bit about Hannibal, which we did not talk about, and we didn't read anything about him. But let's see, share screen. Oh, where is it? I must not have it opened up. Oh, here it is, but I've got to change the page. I was just looking at when Caesar died. Okay. Oh, by the way, next week we're reading again from the reading packet, and you're going to read Nero all the way through Constantine the Great. So you're going to read through some of the emperors, and we're going to talk a little bit more about those next semester as well. But you're just going to kind of see through the end of this empire. And then you're going to write a summary. And of course, the 5 types of questions, but for the principal question, write a principal instead. Okay, I want to go to 218 to 202 BC. So this is about 150 years before Caesar rises to power. And we're going to talk about the Punic Wars. The Punic Wars were between Carthage and Rome. And what do we know? What have we read about Carthage and Rome? Does anybody remember something we may have read?
They had lots of battles.
They had lots of battles. Yes. What did we learn about them from Virgil in the Aeneid? It's kind of a fictitious story, but it was Virgil kind of gave a story to why Carthage and Rome had a bunch of fights. And I don't see everybody, so you'll have to just blurt it out.
Was it the whole Dido episode?
Yes, thank you. Was that Andrew?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it was Dido and her losing Aeneas and killing herself, and how Virgil begins to, and of course he writes about 130 years after the Punic Wars, and he's just kind of giving it a reason of why Rome and Carthage have been fighting. Of course, it's all fictitious. Yes, Carter, I just read your chat. Yeah, that's one way to look at it. There's so much more than that, but yeah, that's good. Okay. So back then, as we see, Hannibal took an oath of hatred toward Rome, and that defined his life and set a course for the war against Rome. So he chose to hate, okay? Chose to hate. And so here's 2 principles. When we do things for the right reasons, God will help and bless us. And when we choose hatred, we choose destruction and spiritual death. Elijah, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when you were talking about his vow to hate, I know that his father was the kind of commander in the first Punic Wars. These were the second ones.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it was very similar actually to like 20th century Germany, in that Rome had already defeated Carthage before, and they were heavily taxing them, and had very harsh restrictions on them. So they kind of, I don't want to say they were forced to rebel, but it was inevitable. So I'm not sure if as much, I don't think it was a very personal thing against maybe some of the Roman leaders, but most of it was more of just desperation. I know the state of Carthage, I know the state of Carthage was very bad at the time. They were struggling with poverty and everything that comes with that. So it was, I don't know if I would title it as pure hatred, and more of just necessity and desperation.
Yes, and then there's a book that actually has his writings in it, and you can see the vehement language that he uses. And anytime anything is motivated by hatred, whether it's justified or not, it causes great destruction. Whether it's, but they were heavily taxed. It was like the Treaty of Versailles, which Rome was doing that, and you are right. I wanted to kind of point out, though, this oath of hatred and how it kind of follows in all throughout history, but as it follows in Julius Caesar, though, as well. And what's going on in our world today, this hatred between one race and another. That's kind of where I want to go with right now, because I want to learn something from that. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and I think you're absolutely right that there was some justification, lots of justification, but let's focus on this oath of hatred. So in his own writings, he took these oaths, and it defined his life in every bit of his private and his personal and public life. And it set a course for Rome, or war against Rome, which, whether it's justified or not, that's something we get to find out and discover for ourselves. But when we do things for the right reasons, God helps us and blesses us. We do know, according to the scholars of the church, that Rome needed to stand tall, because that's where their foundation helped us to form a great nation. And some of their ideas did, and some of the ideas that are false helped us not to form our foundation like those false ideas. So we do know that Rome needed to win for our country to be founded and prepared for the gospel. And so as you read all sorts of, Jesus the Christ has a lot of that in there. Some of the other, I kind of want to just give you a picture of why Rome had to win, why hatred never works, and why it destroys. And then when we choose hatred, we choose destruction and spiritual death. So let's see, somebody's chatting. Hannibal attempted to settle multiple peace treaties after repeatedly succeeding in battle against Rome. However, they did not accept it. I might need to learn more about that, Elijah. Tell me about it.
Well, I was just watching a few things earlier this week about Hannibal, but from what I understand, he tried to come to multiple different agreements and settlements with Rome after beating them in battle after battle, but they chose the Roman way, and their culture is very ingrained in honor, specifically military honor, and so the whole I'd rather kill myself than surrender kind of came into play. So they denied all of those treaties, and eventually it worked out for them, but it didn't look like it was going to work out for them.
Wow, that inspires me to study some more things about Hannibal. Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know if I was aware of that. Appreciate it. Okay, so I was going to ask everybody to do a quick internet search and come up with some facts about Hannibal, but I think I'm pretty impressed with what Elijah has shared. Is there any other information that you can come up with in an internet search? I'm going to put in some of these. Okay. Thank you, Elijah. I just put that in. Tell me what you find. A quick internet search. Who is Hannibal? And notice I didn't say a wiki search. Sometimes we don't know if wiki is right. Oftentimes we have a lot of people who want to change history and put things in that aren't true about the historical truth. So just an internet search that you can come up with some facts, and go ahead and put it in the chat box or blurt it out, because I don't see everybody. Fantastic, Lydia. Thank you. Anybody else? You all look so intent on searching.
I put one in the chat right before Lydia put hers in. It was he worked for a time as a statesman before he was forced into exile by Rome.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even see that. For some reason, it just kind of didn't show up, but I see it. Thank you. Okay. He was forced into exile. Did it say where he went?
No, it just said that he eventually committed suicide after that.
Okay.
I know it's somewhere in Northern Africa, but I'm not sure which country it was at the time because they change a lot.
Africa. I'll just put a question mark there. Thank you, Mikkel. I added that to the same thing. Okay, so we know that he was a general. We know that that he fought against Rome. In the documents I have of his own writing, we know that he hated Rome and he wanted to defeat them. He wanted to conquer and take Rome as one of their conquests. But Rome did win. Okay, let's read. This is something that I got from one of the documents that I don't know who wrote it. It was from something that I was searching from, like BYU or BYU Idaho, somebody giving a talk, and I should have written down who it was. Oh, Enoch, you put down something. Taken to Spain by his father. Okay, let's put these in. Okay. Who would like to read this paragraph? Anybody?
I can read it.
Perfect, go for it.
During the years of the Roman Republic, Rome was involved in many wars, including the wars called the Punic Wars. Punic was the Roman name for the city of Carthage. The Punic Wars were a series of 3 wars fought between Rome and Carthage from 264 BC to 146 BC. The main cause of the Punic Wars were conflicts between the existing Carthaginian Empire and the expanding Roman Republic. At the start of the First Punic War, Carthage was the dominant power. By the end of the Third War, after more than 100 years and the loss of many hundreds of thousands of lives from both sides, Rome conquered Carthage's empire and completely destroyed the city. Rome became the most powerful state in the Western Mediterranean.
Okay, that just was so sad to me. What stuck out to any of you in that? There's not a bunch of like philosophical ideas in there, except for maybe the loss of many hundreds of thousands of lives from both sides. Kind of the same thing that happens with any war, which is awful. Let's have somebody read this one. Who would like to read that one?
I can read it.
Go for it.
A history of these wars reveals that the First Punic War lasted for 20 years with neither side winning. Carthage could not beat Rome's army, while Rome could not compete against Carthage's navy. This war caused many deaths and lots of destruction. When the First Punic War ended, Carthage decided to end the fighting by giving Rome 3 islands. The Romans were not content with this offer, and soon there was another war to capture more land.
So we can see that the Romans were hungry for more power, right? Are we starting to see what this power is doing? This desire for power, this desire for land is doing to Rome? Before, they were just interested in protecting their rights and for governing themselves. But you can see this power, this awful power that is growing. Let's see, we've got this last one. Who would like to read this one?
I can do it.
Thank you.
Okay. The Carthaginian military consisted of a combined arms force of light and heavy infantry, siege engines, skirmishers, light and heavy cavalry, as well as war elephants and chariots. Although Carthage was finally defeated by Rome in 146 before Christ, its military achieved notable success under the command of Hamilcar Barca and his son Hannibal. Hannibal, considered the bravest of men, was unable to accept defeat and took poison, which he always carried with him.
Okay, so we do know he couldn't accept that defeat and he took the poison, which what's not in here is that he was exiled. Hannibal is considered a brave man. He was considered a very, very honored man from Carthage. Rome became bigger, their power became stronger, and Rome overtook many, many countries even before Caesar came into power. And Caesar helped gain England. So you can see there's lots of growth here, and the people probably got used to this, like, oh wow, we're conquering, look at how powerful we are. And so let's see, I see something else in the chat box. I know Hannibal did not receive much help from Carthage. It was almost basically him versus Rome. Many of the nobles from Carthage didn't believe in his success over Rome and thus didn't support or sponsor his forces. That's another true thing. I did know that the people in Carthage were not willing to submit to go to war. Thank you. What do you think about this idea of gaining power and more power? What is the first thought that you have in your mind? Think about, well, let's just go into Julius Caesar. Think about this idea of getting more and more power. All right, hold up your Julius Caesars. I kind of want to see the different versions that you have. Okay, a lot of you have the Dover print. Do some of you not have a copy that you can go with us by raise of hands? Naomi, you don't have a copy with you right now, and Jasmine, you don't have a copy? Okay. I'd like to have as many people as possible to help. Okay, Mikkel, were you able to read? I know Jasmine didn't read. Were you able to read it, Naomi, by any chance, or did you just watch the video? Or
I found a summary of it, so I just read that and then looked over some of like the key ideas.
Okay, that's better than nothing. but how sad to miss reading the actual beautiful words of Shakespeare. Ah, if you borrowed it and then read it, okay. Thanks, Mikkel. All right, what I want to do, and I'm hoping that you will take notes so that you can use those notes to help in the discussion. I want to go through each act and scene and just read the top version. Then we've got some questions to go through it. So at the top of each scene, there's a little summary. This one happens to be a pretty intensive summary. The ones that you might have might not be very intense. And I don't know. So if you could, let me start with Elijah. Will you read Act 1, Scene 1?
I don't know if there's a summary on mine. It's
no summary.
I don't think mine has
There's no summary on ours either.
Yeah, on the Dover
Dang.
5th editions, they don't have the summaries.
Okay, that's really interesting for me to know. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read the summaries. I know Hannah has this kind. Do you have it?
I don't know where my copy is though, so I'll have to find it.
So are you in the house right now or are you at school? You're home? Yeah, go get it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and read the
Well, I
summary.
don't know where it is, but I'll look for it.
Okay. So here's Act 1, Scene 1. A rowdy group of plebeians or commoners have gathered in the streets of Rome to celebrate both the feast of the Lupercal and Julius Caesar's triumphant return to Rome after defeating the last of his enemies, the sons of Pompey. Two tribunes, Marullus and Flavius, chastise the crowd for adoring Caesar and for celebrating as if it were a holiday. The crowd guiltily disperses and Marullus and Flavius depart to vandalize Caesar's statues. So, Julius Caesar has what has he just done?
He's just won a battle with his last enemy.
Yeah. Yes. And tribunes come up and they're chastising the crowd because they are adoring Caesar as if he's a king, and they're starting to realize that, and they're part of the Senate, and they're starting to realize, gosh, why are the people treating him as if he's so kingly? And they don't really say that. But then going to Act 1, Scene 2, I'm not gonna read this whole thing, but here comes Caesar. A soothsayer comes and says, beware the Ides of March. By the way, what does that mean?
Beware the 15th of March.
Yeah, beware the 15th of March. And Caesar, how does he react to that?
He just kind of brushes it off.
He brushes it off, like
he doesn't really believe in that kind of stuff.
No, he doesn't believe in soothsayers. He knows, yeah, he's a dreamer. Good. Yeah. So he's very, very confident in himself, isn't he? He's just done these amazing things. And he has crossed the Rubicon. We don't know this in this reading, but we know it from the last reading. He has decided to enter into Rome and come and take power. Okay, we don't see a lot of that in this play, but we do know this has happened, and the Senate recognizes that. And this is treason. Okay. In this scene, we see that Brutus is not happy with Caesar's sharp rise to power, and Cassius comes and talks to him, and they're seeing that the people want to give him all this power, right? What would you think right now if the people in our country wanted to crown our president king? What would you do? This is where Caesar and Brutus were. They were used to having a senate. They were used to having the plebeians have the part of the house and the patricians have part of the house. What would you do? And what would you think if the people wanted to crown our president a king? Please type in the box what in the chat box, or blurt out what you would think. Chaos. Yeah. That's what would be there, Emma, but what would you think in your mind? What would be some of the thoughts that you were thinking? We're used to, after, how long has it been since we've had a free country? Since 1621? Yeah, that's not the truth. We were kind of under King George III, so maybe 1776. The second coming is going to happen very soon. Love it. Okay. Anybody else? What would you think?
They're throwing away everything we believe in because it's unconstitutional, and therefore, if they make him king, then they're basically saying, I have no rights and I have no purpose or whatever.
Yeah, we go back to what God said to Samuel. People don't want a king. It might look good right now, but you don't want one. Yeah. Okay. So this is what's happening right now. Brutus and Cassius are right there in that situation, but they're not as smart as all of you because they're thinking something differently than how to take care of it differently than maybe what you would do. Brutus says also in Act 1, Scene 2, go to line 89 about. The last line of Brutus, he says, the name of honor, no, right below it, I love the name of honor more than I fear death. What does that mean, do you think? He and Cassius are talking about this, what we just talked about. Gosh, I love the name of honor more than I fear death. What is honorable right now for Brutus? What do you think? You guys all know it. You're just being shy. Elijah.
He wants to preserve the Republic. And so
Yeah.
the way the conspirators kind of go about that is they come up with a plot to kill Caesar. But I think at least what the play is kind of saying is that like they killed the wrong Caesar. They killed the private Caesar, but his public persona or the idea of Caesar, what he personifies as this kind of attraction towards monarchy, really. And this attraction towards power survives and lives in Antonius and the plebeians and kind of in the conspirators as well. So it's an interesting dilemma.
That was so key, Elijah. That was so key. They killed the private man, Caesar, just a man. They didn't kill the idea of power and kingliness. And I shouldn't say kingliness because that sometimes means awesome things. But yes, That was so good. Man, that is worth writing down. I'm going to write it down right now. So they want to kill the man, not the idea, right? Man, that was so good. I love learning from you guys. Okay. And we see on the other side, well, we see further along on line 115, and this man is now become a god. Skip down. I did mark how he did shake. 'Tis true, this god did shake. So they're recognizing that Caesar is putting himself up as a god. But he's human. He had an epileptic seizure, and they could see that he was weak. Now look down at what Cassius says in line about 139. What does it say in 139? Where it says men at some time. Who has that and could share?
I can read it if you want, but
Great.
it says, men at some time are masters of their fates. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings. How far do you want me to read?
Right there. That's good.
Okay.
So he's talking, what is he talking about, Elijah? What do you think you just read?
I mean, he's talking about one of Roman literature's favorite topics, which is this idea of control of your own fate versus just fate and lack of control.
Mm-hmm.
At this moment, I guess he's talking about how they are the masters of their fates, but they have control. And he's kind of taking that to make Brutus act and do some kind of initiative.
Yes. So they're building up this idea, well, we've got to do something about this. Okay. Where have you seen in our current social issues where people have taken in their own hands that they're going to change the course of history? When have you seen that? Carter, you got a big smile on your face. You want to say something?
I think that all the different groups that don't have like a Christ-like goal are trying to do this. So like Black Lives Matter is trying to do this, Antifa is trying to do this, and in some cases are doing it. And it's kind of like they're trying to overthrow our country. They're trying to, even just in the presidential election, we're watching people pit against each other and get violent, even trying because they don't agree on who should be president, because they both do some good for the country and both will do some bad. So it's, I guess I shouldn't say both. There's more than two options, but it's kind of down to two options. But anyways, just the way it's going right now with everything, everybody's trying to do it, and some are exceeding and some aren't.
Wow, what stuck out to me, what you said was both will do some good and both will do some harm. You're right. And what's interesting is that people are now rising up, rebelling, and deciding to take things in their own hands to change the course of history. And they're uniting what they know now with the past, and they're just trying to destroy and change the past history, which never has ever worked. And Winston Churchill talked about that. When he was talking about the why can't I think of who they are? The Nazis. You can't go back and change the decisions that have been made in the past. You can learn what's wrong and what's right with those, and then go on from there. Very good. Anybody else want to add something? Okay, so here they are. Their actions can start to change things, right? And so turn to line 152. Who can read the next 6 or 7 lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. About 7 lines, starting at 152. Oh, it doesn't. Shoot. Okay, it's almost at the end of Cassius's lines. I'm going to make a note of this to have you guys buy a certain like the Cliff Notes complete. They just have lines. They have, okay. Maybe I'll read it. So it says, when went there by an age since the great flood, but it was famed with more than one man. So he's saying, he's talking about, you know, we've only been, okay, hold on. It's basically, there's never or ever been another age in which a single man has been in this position since the beginning of the Republic, right? And continuing, when could they till now that talked of Rome, that her wide walks encompassed but one man? Now it is Rome indeed, and room enough when there is in it but one only man. So they're really trying to reason out, this is not right. This having this one man lead us is not right. Can I ask you something? Is it okay that Brutus and Cassius are talking about Caesar gaining more power? Is this okay, do you think? Is there any danger in talking about that?
I think there is danger for themselves. If Caesar finds out, he'll get rid of them. That's just the way of most tyrants. But
okay, but philosophically speaking, Carter, is there danger in talking about these things? No. Elijah, there is philosophically, you're saying? Okay. Tell me what you're thinking.
I mean, I think there's danger in any kind of philosophy. It all depends on how hard you lean into it. Obviously, these conspirators leaned into this idea that this corruptible image of power, which is Caesar, needs to be dealt with immediately and in a very brutal display. And obviously, it led to the downfall of the Republic. I mean, it was exactly what they weren't trying to do. So, I mean, any idea can be harmless or dangerous, just depending upon how you kind of interpret it. And a big part of William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar has to do with like misinterpretation. That's a whole theme and motif in the entire play. It talks about how, Brutus misinterprets the letters that Cassius kind of planted by the people and other examples. But basically, I mean, yeah, there's danger to any kind of philosophy. No philosophy is safe.
Okay. So anybody else agree or disagree with Elijah and Carter, and you want to say something? Anybody else? Go ahead, Enoch.
I agree that there is a small danger, but I do believe that if you talk about him getting power, a bad thing. It is a good thing to talk about those issues instead of throwing them in the closet and forget about them.
Okay. Elijah. Well, can I go to Andrew first? I just realized he had his hand up. Okay, go ahead, Andrew.
I realize that there is some risk in that, but if you don't take any risk, then you'll never have the reward. So I think it is worth discussing.
Worth discussing. Okay, Elijah.
I completely agree with you guys. I think that it's totally worth discussing. I just think that it's important to be aware of the danger that or the risk that you're taking when you discuss these things, that you shouldn't treat them lightly. I mean, a good case could be made that Cassius was just jealous of Caesar, and the whole plot to destroy him was more out of envy than some sense of moral duty. But besides that, yeah, I think that's one of the greatest things about freedom of speech. You get to engage with these dangerous ideas, but whenever you engage in any kind of idea, especially dangerous ones, you should be aware of that danger so that you can discuss it and combat it with the proper respect it deserves.
Okay, so then there are some guidelines in discussing ideas, right? Definitely we need to discuss them. And yes, there is danger and there's also good. So we've decided that. What are the standards when we're discussing ideas? What are the standards that help it so that it is healthy discussion rather than dangerous discussion that leads to these terrible acts that we know happened? What are the standards that we follow, do you think? Enoch.
Don't get caught up in your emotions and keep the Holy Spirit to help and guide you while you talk about it.
Okay, I might want to write this stuff down. Wait, I want to go down to Julius Caesar. Okay, what was my question? What are the standards we use to keep discussions? Can we say political discussions because they are all about governing people? To keep political discussions healthy, and I think you know what I mean by healthy. It's like we're not going to go kill somebody, or we're not going to go damage somebody's property, like damage their store or whatever it is, or their statue or art, right? To keep political discussions healthy. Now, Enoch, you said, what did you say?
Don't get caught up in your emotions and keep the Holy Spirit with you.
Thank you. Don't get caught up in emotion. Andrew.
We also need to consider all our options and make sure we understand others' point of view.
That is so huge. Look at all options and understand the other side. Well, I guess you said others, the other view. I think some of you have taken my writing class before, and we learned to look at the other side of our thesis, right? What does looking at the other side, the other views, do for somebody? Thank you. I'm going to add civil to that. What does knowing the other side, what does it help you to do? It gives context and background. Good. It gives context for what? Let's be more specific. Elijah.
A lot of context, a lot of different types of context, probably emotionally context, probably, ideological context. It just kind of, if you kind of lend yourself to being able to think the way that someone else who you're talking to is thinking, then you can really engage with the ideas from more points of view and kind of shape it better, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, and so what I want to show you is if you were ever to go work for a news source, the people who work for news sources go to this website. Oh, not that one. Sorry, that was the email that I had somebody send me so I could remember where this went. Share screen, where is it? Right here. So if you were to go work for a news source, you would want to, how do I get out of this? If I stop share and get, oh my heck. I can't. Something came up on this, and so it didn't allow me to see. Okay, now let me start this again. Share screen. Okay. This is a media bias chart, static version. This changes every few months because the news sources change, but you've got neutral news sources that are pretty close to showing both sides. And then you've got those, oh man, do you see how this does this? Well, we're gonna just try and look at this and see. We're just gonna keep refreshing. And then you've got what?
You could just put the link in the chat box if that kept on popping up and people could look at it.
Yeah, I can do that. I'd love to do that. It'll do it to you though too. Let's see. Chat. Okay. You have to pay like $15 to download this, and I wasn't going to do that. These skew left, these skew hyper partisan left, and then the most extreme left over here. And the same here, skews right, hyper partisan right, most extreme right. So as you see over here, these things that you're listening over here are only giving you one side. These over here are only giving you one side. The more you look at these, the more you're going to see between this 5.5 and 5.5, negative 5.5 to 5.5, the more you're going to be a little bit more centered, okay? And so this was what was so interesting to me, because I have some family members that listen to these extremes and they're always fighting with each other. They're using emotion. Who was it that was talking about emotion? I think Enoch. And what's interesting about that is these people that listen to this and this side, when they get together, they can't look at the commonalities. They can only look at their side and that they are right. And I think it's really important that we remember that we've got to listen to both sides. We either stay neutral in what we understand and we see both sides of it, or if we want to be super way out there left, we also look super way out there right, and we just see what it is, and it helps to cement our views. We understand a little better, and we can find the common things. I'm going to stop sharing because this is bugging me. Okay, so let's go back to this. So when we look at all options and understand the other side, the other view, we're more grounded. We can make better decisions. An example, I was dead set on talking about what I had read about Hannibal. I was thankful that Elijah brought up some other things about him that I hadn't really considered. I felt like that helped ground me a little better. Okay, do you see where I'm going with this? And all of us can do that. Cassius and Brutus had wives. What did Brutus's wife try to do? Maybe we'll just go right over there. Let's just skip. Where is that page where Brutus's wife, Portia, is trying to talk to him? If anybody finds it first before me, tell me, please.
Mine is on page 25.
So what act and what scene?
Oh, Act 2, Scene 1.
Oh, I just got there. Yes. Okay. So look at line. Oh, you don't have lines, but it's basically, let's see where it is in regards to the beginning and middle. Must be closer to the end. Yeah, it's closer to the end. Portia has this long soliloquy, where it begins, is Brutus sick, and is it physical to walk unbraced and stuck up in the humors of the dank morning? Did everybody see that part? It's right after Brutus is saying, good Portia, go to bed. Does anybody see that? And you could read that whole soliloquy. Who has that?
What page is it on in our book, Mom?
Oh, you've got our book, page 65, Hannah, and it's the big long part that Portia has on that page where it says, is Brutus sick? Do you have that? Page
Yeah, do you
6.
want me to read the whole thing?
Please do. And I want everybody to look for what means Portia uses to convince Brutus. And yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, is Brutus sick, and is it physical to walk unbraced and suck up the humors of the dank morning? What is Brutus? Wait, I can't see. Sorry, it's dark. What is Brutus sick?
Hold on. This is for everybody. Whenever you see a comma, use that comma to the fullest.
Yeah, my bad. Okay.
What is Brutus sick? Yeah.
And will he steal out of his wholesome bed to dare the vile contagion of the night, and tempt the roomy and unpurged air to add unto his sickness? No, my Brutus, you have some sick offense within your mind, which by the right and virtue of my place I ought to know of, and upon my knees I charm you, by my once commended beauty, by all your vows of love, and that great vow which did incorporate and make us one, that you unfold to me yourself, your half, why you are heavy, and what men tonight have had resort to you. For here have been some 6 or 7 who do hide their faces, even from darkness.
Wow, that was excellent, Hannah. Do you see the difference that it makes when we read using those commas? Did anybody see that? That made a huge difference. What means does Portia use to convince Brutus to talk to her? What is she using? What means? Oh, thank you, Enoch. Your lines are numbered. I'm going to know that from now on. Okay. What means does Portia use? What's her logic? How can she convince Portia? Sorry. How can she convince Brutus? Emotional duty, okay. But under what circumstance? What is her premise? Her 2 premises there. I think they're 2. I guess it's one premise. Where are we again? Okay. So we are in Act 2, Scene 1. We are a couple pages from the end. And it's between Brutus and Portia, and it's this long thing that Portia is talking, and she's saying, is Brutus sick? Does yours have lines, Emma? No? Okay. So do you see where we are? Is Brutus sick? Oh, awesome. Okay. So somebody wrote down, as his wife, she deserves to know. Yes. And what do wives and husbands do to become spouses? What is it that they do?
Be honest with each other.
They're honest with each other. Good. Look at this. It says, by all your vows of love and that great vow, which did incorporate and make us one. So they vowed to be one, right? They vowed to be one. Do all of you have permission to mark and underline your books? I'm just curious. Do you all? Perfect. That is a great place to underline if you're interested. So because they are spouses and because they made that vow, Portia has a right to know. And what would have happened had Portia known right then, what could she have done for Brutus? And there's a lot of things, but what are some of the things that she could have done to help him? Yes, you are all right. Those who are thinking of these ideas and you're not saying, you're right, but just share them. It really goes along with number 3 that I wrote down in the class notes. Our spouses help us to see things that we haven't thought about, right? You don't have spouses, but you can understand, right? Okay, yes. So that's another thing. Those are other standards that we use to keep the political discussions healthy and civil, right? Okay, what are some other standards that we use? Socrates is always talking about this in Plato's Republic. He talks about searching for the truth. Okay, so anytime we are honestly searching for the truth rather than trying to be right, then our motive is right. And we're going to get to the truth and we're going to do the right things. So those are the standards. So if I were to talk to somebody, I've actually kind of become more neutral in that table that you saw, just because I've got a husband that is more neutral. He looks at both sides. I used to be probably far right, and I'm probably much more neutral now. And I'm so grateful for his understanding, because we can talk now about both sides and we have a much better relationship because we're both trying to search for truth more than we're trying to be right, which is what we did in the first 25 years of our marriage, which was a really hard thing. We've now been married 30 years and we've had 5 good years. Okay, so let's go into Act. Our time is going. I think I want to now just open up some of the questions that I had. A major theme of Julius Caesar is that power can corrupt. I want you to use examples from this play that can prove that is either true or false. What do you think? Examples of the play, power can corrupt. Enoch.
Caesar was kind of corrupted as well, but I don't know how to say his name, but since this was talking to Brutus, he said, your name will be like
Cassius.
Your name will be like Caesar. And he was comparing like Caesar, Brutus, and saying they would be the same. So that kind of led him down the path, which brought him to joining the conspiracy.
Okay, I'm going to write that down. So Cassius, what scene and act was that?
The first scene, it was when they were talking. Well, actually, I'm not quite sure. I think it was the first scene where Cassius and Brutus stepped aside while Caesar left to the games. I think it was there.
Okay, we'll just put this down. So Cassius is led to corruption when he wants to kill Caesar. The power is corrupting him. Good. What are some other examples? Naomi.
I was just thinking this is maybe something we can discuss, but I don't know if it's more of like the want of and seeking power, if it's the fear of losing power. So even just Brutus just being scared that Caesar's going to take all of the power and the power of the people will be taken away, and then also Caesar wanting to gain more power and just like not wanting to have that taken away.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Somebody wrote in the chat, it is power can corrupt or power does corrupt.
Sorry, that was a
Please,
question I mistyped, but I just wanted your clarification on that.
is it power can corrupt or power does corrupt?
Well, is it like, yeah,
A major theme of Julius Caesar is that power can corrupt. There's just like philosophy can be dangerous and it can be good. I think power is also amoral. It's just like money. Money can be used for good or it can be used for bad. Power can be good and it can be corrupt, right? So we know there's a lot of examples in history where powerful men who were in charge of kingdoms were very good. We know that King Benjamin had the power because he was a king. He had power, but what was his power like? He didn't use it to gain more land or conquer people or enslave people. He actually worked right alongside them, right? So power can corrupt. It doesn't always corrupt. It's just there's some standards. So does that help to answer your question, Elijah?
yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So my husband and I have power in our home. We have the power to make executive decisions. We have the power to provide homes and opportunities for our children, but we can also use that corruptly, or we can use it in a way to empower our children. Okay. So what are some other examples how power can corrupt in this play? I have not heard from Jacoby or who else have I not heard from? I think, Jacoby, you're it. What are some ideas that you're thinking about? Can I just put you right there on the spot? Because you are so intelligent and I miss hearing from you.
What was your question? Is it the question you have on the Google Doc?
Yeah, it's what are some examples where you saw that power corrupted?
Well, I noticed like at the beginning because I like I listened to the play and like followed along.
Good.
On the video you had in the assignment, and I watched that like Caesar like didn't accept the crown for like 3 times or something, and I think that's kind of how power kind of corrupted.
That's interesting because you notice that people were offering, it was basically Casca that was offering him the crown these 3 times, and the people were just going wild, right? And he's starting to feel this, ooh, this feels so good. Yes. Okay, good. This is awesome. Okay. Another question I had was, were Brutus and Cassius and the rest of the conspirators right to kill Caesar? Why or why not? Were they right to kill Caesar? Is that the way to do it? Carter.
I don't know if they were right or not, but I really thought the line where I think it was Cassius, he said, "Liberty, freedom, tyranny is dead." It reminded me a lot of like the different mantras that come through the French Revolution. That like they were fighting for liberty and freedom. They ended up pretty much the same as the Roman Republic did, and I think that may not have much to do with whether it was right to kill Caesar, but it was just an interesting parallel I noticed there.
So this foundational motivation, good connection. That's a interdisciplinary thought there of thinking of the French Revolution. They wanted brotherhood and unity was what the French Revolution wanted, right? And equality. I think that's what the French Revolution wanted. Unity, brotherhood, and equality is what they wanted. Oh, I love talking about the French Revolution. I've got to stop. Okay. So the foundational motivation is what? What do we want to say about that? Determines whether it is right or not. Can I go back to what Elijah said originally? And maybe is this what you're going to say? Let me just say, I really loved what Elijah said earlier, was that they killed the man. They killed the private man. Oh man, I gotta see this whole thing. Okay, they killed the private man, but not the corrupting idea of kingship. Okay, Elijah.
I think my idea kind of goes along with that, but I think that what they didn't really understand was the Republic was already dead. I think if it had to be like pinpointed to like a certain event, I think it could have been Caesar crossing the Rubicon. That whole movement and shift in especially the people's idea of Caesar and his power really kind of disrupted and dismantled the reverence and respect towards their republic. I do think though that killing Caesar could be justified in that it was like a last oh my gosh, I can't remember the word right now. It was
last straw that killed the camel's back.
Maybe. I think it was just like a kind of like their last chance or attempt towards preserving this republic. It was really, they didn't have many open options. And so, I mean, maybe they could be emotionally justified in that case, and that they were at least trying to do some kind of action to stop this from happening. But I think it was kind of inevitable.
Yeah. Can we spend the next few minutes now looking at our own social issues right now coming up? These men acted irrationally because they were so fast in trying to make this decision, and they were fearful, right? They were full of fear. Are we using fear in our world, our nation, to combat the things that are going on? Do you think? And I shouldn't say we, because none of us are destroying buildings. I'm just saying, are the people of this nation using fear when they're destroying property and lives? I don't know. But it is very, very important to ask ourselves that question. How is it that we can make a change to bring, do you remember how Elijah talked about how talking about ideas can be dangerous? They can make us destroy property, or they can make us come to truth, right? How is it that you and I are going to be those kinds of people that bring us to truth and find the commonality? What are the things that you can do personally next time you are met with this opportunity to talk to somebody? What are you going to do? Please write it in the chat box. And this is how we will end. What are you going to do? How are you going to act? By virtue of learning about Julius Caesar, about Brutus, about Cassius, about Casca. Gosh, we didn't even get to talk about Casca. Whew. What are you going to do to help bring the philosophical questions to the truth? Please write in the chat box, everybody. I'd like to invite Jeline to even write some. She's the other adult in this group, and she probably meets with a lot more people that are opinionated than youth do, maybe. Okay, Elijah, focus on the micro scale. Try to connect with individuals by trying to have civil and productive conversations about ideas. Yeah. And civil and productive, you're meaning like following the standard of not getting caught up in emotions, looking at all options, even the other side, right? And searching for truth and commonalities and keeping the spirit with you. Good. What are the rest of you going to do? Voice opinions nicely, and then try to come to a conclusion that works best for everyone. Look at both sides of the issues. Good. So awesome. Looking for truth and principles from every angle. Yeah. These are all so good. What else? For my part, I want to put myself in situations where I am talking to somebody who disagrees with me. I want to have more of those experiences. I don't have too many. I guess with my husband I do, but Mikkel, in all things I do, including discussions, I will keep the spirit with me and center my actions around the gospel. Awesome. Try to understand other people, Lydia, by seeing both sides of the discussion and solve the problem. Good. Elijah, productive, as in having a goal for the conversation. Okay, not just wasting opinions at each other. Good. And having like a goal, like what? Because some people have a goal, like Machiavelli had a goal to make sure that the ends justify the means. Sometimes we have to be really specific. Enoch, I will not go with the flow, and I will do my best to see all sides, not just mine. Yeah, we got to be trouts and salmons, right? Anything else? Okay, keep coming. I just wanted to tell you that last night, as I was laying in my bed and I was thinking of all of you and praying for all of you, because I do pray for you in my prayers, I was so elated to be part of a group of people who are learning principles from history in a way that's going to make them become the very best people they can become. And I just had this feeling of awe, this feeling of I'm so inspired by each one of you, and I wanted to let you know I just really admire your minds and your hearts. and I'm just excited to be part of your life and to learn from you. So thank you, thank you. And again, next week, the readings are, again, very easy. It's really, really hard to get readings for ancient Rome unless you dig into this extremely hard writing that's dry and boring. Ancient Rome is very complicated. So I chose this cute little children's book that people read when they were young, or sorry, people read in the early 1900s. And it's easy, I know, but dig deeper if you can. Dig deeper on the internet, find more that you can, like Elijah's, take his example. Jolene, we must first live our own lives and true principles before we can help others. Awesome. Jasmine, try my very best to see all sides and not use fear to go against what I believe or use fear to cause more destruction. Good. Gracie, look at both sides of the argument. Make decisions only after things about the consequences, find the rest of the problem. Enoch, Carter's above is Elijah's first message. Did I miss Carter?
Yeah, like when you read Elijah's first one, Carter and mine was above, so I copied and put mine lower. But
that's so interesting. It just kind of shows up after. I will try to use the standards on political discussion to debate and discuss the ideas of our government. Oh, I like that. I will not go with the flow. Okay, I read yours. That's right. Super awesome. Thank you. Andrew, I will accept the truth wherever it comes from because truth is truth. Yeah. Super. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next week. We're very, very close to writing your paper. Please think about that. Please think about preparing your minds for the tests that are coming up. And I hope you're getting together as study groups. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you.
Let me go over. Okay, bye-bye.